record another segment. We talk about the some of these things on those slides. I'm not going to repeat. We covered primitive types versus reference types. We said things about this. We also will talk at some point about the three-tier application design. Typically, I mentioned this before, internally as a programmer, you recognize different types of objects with different responsibilities, and very typical responsibilities in applications is that there could be classes responsible for user interface, like buttons and other controls on user forms. Those would be considered something that belongs to the presentation layer. Business classes or business objects belong to the middle tier. For example, in a banking application, when the user selects, deposit amount such and such, you could instantiate an object which represents the deposit transaction, right? So then it would be qualified as business object, because this particular object is responsible for knowing how to carry out this particular task, executing this particular transaction. And finally, database layer is very specific, something very specific to the database. Database connections, database servers, result sets, records, individual fields within those records. All of those are kind of helper objects that allow us to directly communicate with the database. Just to let you know that this is a very popular view of internal classification of classes that we create. And we will talk a little bit more about the UML representation, and many of you already know exactly what it means for those of you who attend CIS 123. Now, I also would like to note something about the constructor syntax. Let me go back to the locomotive class and take a look at its constructor, the two constructors that we have, the default constructor and a specific constructor, which takes some parameters. It happens to be one parameter. Notice that compared to a method such as this, calculate maximum weight of the car, the method has a return value type specified as part of the method signature. Now the constructor here and here, I should probably name them public, but this is only access specifier. This is not the return type. But I would like to tell you that there is no way to have your constructor return something back. The reason for this is absent. This becomes a syntax error. The reason for this, and again, I may have mentioned this already in CIS 123, but the reason for this is that there is no way to, if I wanted to say, oh, I would like to have a constructor that returns an integer as many methods do, and say return, something like 1, 2, 3, return an actual value from my constructor. Take a look at this return. Return suggests that you will be returning this value. Now take a look at how constructor is invoked. The constructor is actually invoked by new. And guess what? Right here in the middle of it, there is no place for any other variables to accept this value from the constructor, because new returns an address. We already said this. When you have new, it returns an address of an object in memory, and that address is captured by the reference that we'd like to use in our program and further refer to an object in memory. And so simply, there is no way to do this. And so by design, constructors cannot return anything. They can still throw an exception and crash, right? But they cannot use a return statement, and they have no return type in their signature when we define them. Because simply, if you examine this new functionality of our new operator, which allocates a brand new object, there is no way to accept anything from this constructor, because all it does, if it succeeds, it will be returning back an address of the brand new object in memory, and there is no syntax that you can use on the client side who makes a call, who uses the new, makes a call to the constructor. There is no way to accept any return values. So it's not allowed. Just to mention it, that all other methods in our classes will have a return value. Even if I wanted to have a public void method, which would say print weight, for the sake of demonstration, still using weight in those examples. What I could do is just say system dot print system out dot print print line and print the maximum weight, right? I can make a call into this method to actually obtain the value. It's not unheard of for me to say, I don't want to repeat this formula. I already have my formula in place. So now, in order to print this, I will call calculate maximum weight from this method and print it. In other words, or another approach, I could do something like this: integer weight or temp equals make a method call and then print temp. Right? So here, print weight method, another operation that I have inside my boxcar class. Print weight has a very specific purpose, that it simply prints something on the screen. It doesn't return anything back. So we say void, right? So it's just this very special type of return from a method that just says, do not expect this method to provide any values. You can make a call, but it's not going to return any values back. So don't try to accept them, because this will be a syntax error. But the constructor syntax does not even allow a void. So there is no place for this type of thing. So it's not part of syntax, and the constructors really don't care about any return values. All right, so I would encourage you, many of you who already taken and listened to things we did in CIS 123, I would encourage you that you take a look at this presentation, and a lot of this should already be familiar, because I'd like to, we already finished a lot of talk related to this presentation today. So my goal would be on Thursday to go over the upcoming homework project, right? So rather than get stuck in those PowerPoints or whatever presentation slides, rather I would like to go over the next project. So make sure that you read this, and I also would strongly encourage you to make sure that you take a look at this link from the javacoffeebreak.com. That's it. I'll see you guys on Thursday.